good stuff to talk about today. Before we do, I just want to let everybody know that if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A feature on the Zoom toolbar. If you put it in the chat, we're going to redirect you to the Q&A. That way we can keep track of all the questions that are coming in today. So again, my name is Jackie Nierenberg. I'm Director of Community Engagement for the Austin Transit Partnership. And with us today, we're lucky to have Council Member Leslie Poole, who's also Board Member Leslie Poole for Capital Metro. So I'm going to turn it over to Council Member Poole just to give a couple of opening remarks.
Jackie, thank you so much, and welcome you all to today's public outreach event. I'm Leslie Poole, Council Member for District 7, and I'm really glad to be here with y'all. Our goal today is to update you all about the improvements coming to the Metro Rail Red Line. For example, double tracking the Lakeline Leander stretch of track, and of a special importance to District 7, updates on the planned rail stations that I've been following closely to ensure the steady and successful progress for new rail stations at McCalla Place and at Broadmoor. I'm also really pleased to extend my sincere appreciation and thank yous to Cap Metro's loyal Red Line commuters whose numbers grow by the day, and to Cap Metro staff who are making these project improvements successful. And I'll just name these 4 folks right now: Mark Guerrero, Ken Cartwright, King Call, and Sharmila Mukherjee. So thank you all for being here today. I'm really glad to be a part of this effort.
Thank you, Council Member. Appreciate your words. We also have with us Board Member Eric Stratton, who sits on the board of Cap Metro and also the Austin Transit Partnership. Board Member Stratton, would you like to say a few words before we get started?
Yes, Jackie, can you hear me okay?
Yep, hear you loud and clear.
Great, thank you so much for having me. I just want to thank you and the whole effort and team at Capital Metro and Austin Transit Partnership for bringing us and getting us to this point. I was first nominated and appointed to the Board of Directors for Capital Metro representing Williamson County in December of 2018. And ever since I've been on there, I've been a passionate advocate for the Red Line train and ensuring that we could get the Red Line running and get it up to speed. And the things that we are doing are monumental and are exciting, and we're really just pumped up about what is to come. 2 of the biggest things that I heard from residents in Williamson County in particular about the Red Line is, man, if we could just get us to the domain and get us to the airport. And thanks to the voters in Austin with Project Connect, we're going to be able to do both. We're really excited. So with folks up in Leander, you've got double tracking coming up soon. This is going to speed up the efficiency and get us down to like 15-minute intervals on the train. And soon folks are going to be able to get to the domain and get to the airport through Project Connect. And along with that, folks will be able to go the other direction too more frequently and get up to the big new things that are coming up that way in Leander as well. I am so happy, so excited about this. Glad to see what everybody is doing, and really glad that all these folks are logged on in line to see what we've got in store. So thanks to the Cap Metro team and Austin Transit Partnership for making this possible, and for all of the supporters out there that have tirelessly advocated for transit in Austin and in Williamson County to get us to this point. Let's keep having fun and doing good things, folks, and making this possible for the Red Line and for transit in Austin as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board Member Stratton. And now I'd like to introduce you all to Ken Cartwright. Ken is going to be giving us a presentation on all the exciting things that are happening with the Red Line. And I'm going to share my screen. So give me 1 second, Ken. And I'm going to let you say your title, Ken, because I don't want to mess it up.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us over this noon hour. Really appreciate in for us to provide you with an update on all of the red line improvements that Council and Board Member Poole and Board Member Stratton mentioned to you. We're very excited that these projects have been included in Project Connect, and we're able to make further improvements there. But Jackie, as you mentioned, my name is Ken Carright. I'm Vice President of Construction and Facilities at Capital Metro, and we're responsible for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of all of Capital Metro's transit and transit facilities, as well as our operational and administrative facilities. But as mentioned, we'd like to share some of the progress that we've made on some of the projects making these red line improvements over the last several months since the vote in November. And for those of you who may be new to the area, the Red Line regional rail system is a 32-mile corridor starting at our new downtown Austin station, if you've had the opportunity to visit that recently, extending to the northwest all the way to Leander. We currently have 9 stations in service, and those of you who rode the train or continue to ride the train know that pre-pandemic, we were at full capacity during peak hours, and have always looked at increasing the frequency, capacity, and the reliability of the service that we've been able to provide. And we've also been fortunate, as you may recall, last summer to have implemented our positive train control system, making it an even more safe and reliable service. So we're excited about all of those improvements. And since the implementation of that positive train control, or PTC system, we have been looking at further opportunities and in collaboration with our consultants on how we can extend better service to this corridor. And as most of you know, this corridor is mostly single track. So there's very few locations where trains can pass each other. So that limits our operational flexibility somewhat. So we have begun to identify areas for double tracking, as well as areas for new stations to focus on new corridors and new ridership areas that have grown up since the rail line was implemented. This first project, the Lake Line to Leander double track project, is in the area about a 10-mile stretch between Leander and Lake Line, which is the longest single track section on the entire rail corridor, and really limited our operating capability in this zone and for the entire rail line for that matter. So we've identified an area specifically between Park Street and the Discovery Boulevard where we will be implementing a second track. We'll be shifting the existing track to make room for the second track, but we'll be doing some drainage and utility work, some retaining walls, and a new bridge in that area. And this will greatly improve our flexibility and our ability to serve the Leander station, specifically in the Leander area. So this particular project, the construction contract, was just awarded by the board in August. It's scheduled to begin construction this month, and then we will be complete in fall of next year. So very exciting to get that project underway. Going to the next slide. Another new station project that Council and Board Member Poole mentioned, the Broadmoor Station. So if you see the map on the right there, you can see Broadmoor and its proximity to Burnett Road and the Domain. So it's just to the east of the Domain and just east of Burnett Road. And it's about a mile north of our existing, a half mile north of our existing Kramer Station, and is really geared to serve that large population that has grown up around the Domain area, both the residents and the businesses as well. It's also about 1 mile north of the new Austin Q2 Stadium. And the really great thing about this particular station is it will have bus connectivity from 3 different routes, Route 803, 240, and 466. So you'll have direct connectivity to areas in that specific area, and especially the Domain, which we have been lacking so far with limited capacity and connectivity with the Kramer Station. Next slide, please. So you can see the exact area here for the new station. Design on this station is complete. It's in permitting at this point. but you can see just to the left of the red oval there is the IBM campus, and then Burnett Road, and of course the domain is just on the other side of Burnett Road there. You can see in the bottom left where Top Golf is, and to the right is the Charles Schwab campus there. So it will serve a very large population center in this area, both residential and commercial, that we're excited about. Next slide. So this particular station, the platforms will be long enough to house 2 trains in each direction. They have a canopy over it. There'll be about a half mile of double tracking associated with it, which will increase our flexibility for passing trains in this area. We'll also have 400 parking spaces available to transit users. So you can park your car there and take transit to your final destination. And it'll also have plenty of pedestrian and bike-friendly connectivity and pathways in this area, and of course, enhanced safety and security. Next slide. One thing really unique about this project is it's a P3, or a public-private partnership agreement between Capital Metro and the developer. And we're really excited to be able to leverage both private and public funds in order to bring this new station to life. And as I mentioned, it's a multimodal transit hub, so we'll have connectivity to buses in the area, as well as bicycle and pedestrian connectivities. It's adjacent to a high-density mixed-use development, and it is in support of the Imagine Austin vision for a more compact and connected city. Next slide. So the next project is very excited. Just to the south of the Broadmoor project is the McCalla MLS Metro Rail Station. We're in the preliminary design, 30% design process at this point in time, but this station would be immediately adjacent to the new Q2 stadium. It will also have the capacity to hold 2 trains in each direction, as well as a special event platform, so we can add more service associated with the matches at the Q2 stadium. We'll have plenty of customer amenities at the station. We'll have canopies. There'll be crowd control because there'll be a lot of people moving back and forth across those rail platforms during those matches and other special events. And the one nice thing about this is we will actually be able to, in parallel, complete a double tracking project from our North Operations facility. You can see at the bottom of the map there, that's where our train operations and maintenance is located. We'll be able to connect that all the way to the Broadmoor Station. So we'll have a lot of flexibility in this corridor. It's a very tight right-of-way area, and we're just able to squeeze 2 tracks in there to provide a lot of flexibility to improve service in this particular corridor. So other modifications, drainage improvements, sidewalks, and of course, with all our projects, we will have sustainability features as part of that. Next slide, please. So here's a recent photograph showing the area of the station. You can see it's immediately behind the Q2 stadium, and it's already, Q2 has already extended sidewalks to this area. So it'll be a direct pedestrian connectivity to the platform. Next slide. And here's a rendering, an artist's rendering of what the stadium could look like. Again, we're in early stages of design at this point, but you can see the direct connection to the stadium there, and then the extended platforms there off to the left. So lots of pedestrian connectivity in this area. Next slide. I think we skipped one slide there. If we want to go back just one, sorry about that. So, and the last thing we wanted to mention to you is that throughout our entire commuter corridor, there has been a goal to establish as many quiet zones as possible. And of the 95 crossings we have in the commuter corridor, we're down to just a handful left. And these specific remaining intersections in the domain area are slated for new quiet zones. We're in the very early stages of design on these. And so we have to complete our diagnostic review in coordination with the city and the Federal Railroad Administration, but we should be able to begin design on these very soon and get these, and that'll leave only a couple of remaining intersections left to do in the entire commuter corridor, so that we will have established quiet zones in virtually the entire corridor. And so that is a summary of all of the projects that we have underway now, and appreciate your allowing us the opportunity to go through these and update you on the projects. And now we'll be happy to answer questions that everyone has regarding these projects.
All right, thank you so much, Ken. Appreciate it. And now I think I'd like to ask everybody who's on our team at Cap Metro or ATP to turn on your cameras, unmute yourself. I'll start my video also, and we can start answering some questions. Let me pull up the Q&A that we've got so far. All right, so our first question from Matthew is, with the new McAllen station, will there be a bike pedestrian crossing added to be able to get from Delta Drive to Q2 Stadium and the Red Line?
And I'll start with that. And I believe we have Marcus Guerrero, the project manager for that project, as well as King Cole in our capital projects group, and they can chime in. But we are working on the pedestrian connectivity in this particular area. We are extending a pathway to Breaker Lane. And we have heard the comment from the public about bicycle access to the station. And so we have pulled in our safety group to help advise us on that. We do have a very tight right-of-way in that area. We're trying to get as wide a path in there as we can, but we do rely on our safety group to advise us regarding that. Again, with the goal of avoiding any potential conflicts between trains and pedestrians and bicycles. But I'll defer to Marcus or King if you have anything to add.
The question was about bike crossing the tracks. Yes, we do have a pedestrian crossing that can be used for crossing the bikes as well between Delta Drive and FC Austin Stadium. We'll be having some bike racks available on the FC Austin Stadium side as well as on Delta Drive side.
All right, thank you, King. We have a question now from Roger. Have you estimated changes to ridership and subsidy per passenger trip from these improvements?
Defer that to Sharmila and or Dave. I know you have ongoing discussions regarding service levels and such things, if you'd like to address that.
And team, I might ask, as you come on to answer questions, if you could just tell us your role at Cap Metro, so folks know where we're coming from. That would be great.
Thank you, Jackie and Ken, and thank you, Board Member Poole and Board Member Stratton. So to answer the ridership question, yes, we have estimated ridership, and it's all based on pre-COVID numbers, of course. And the ridership estimated at Broadmoor is significant. In terms of whether there's fare subsidies that were considered not in the planning phase, Cap Metro has undertaken fare studies in the past, and we do that system-wide, taking equity and other key considerations for our service in mind, and kind of a parity between our bus and rail operations. So we have not done that specific to in connection with the two stations that are in the planning phase, but I would also pass it on to Dave Deck to add anything else that he may want to add on at this point.
I don't have any. My name is Dave Deck. I'm the Vice President of Rail Operations. There's so many moving parts right now because we look at the ridership numbers for Broadmoor and McAllen, And then, once we have some connections with the blue line in the air, that's really going to be the game changer, I think. So I don't have those numbers now. I know they're being looked at, but there's so many gears that go into making this one number that it's really a moving target right now.
Absolutely. And I forgot to comply with Jackie's directions. I'm sure I didn't introduce myself. I'm Sharmila Mukherjee. I'm EVP, Planning and Development at Cap Metro.
Thanks, Sharmila. Appreciate it. Okay, so we have another question from Matthew. Will the 2 new stations add Metro bike shelters like those that exist at some of the stations at, for example, Highland?
I'll respond to that. I do know that we are contemplating the Metro bike stations. I do believe we do have one in the plans for the Broadmoor Station, which design is complete on that. We are evaluating that for the McCalla Station currently. And we have a great relationship with the MLS team there, and they want to encourage, activity, pedestrian and bicycle activity through their site. And so we will work with them to see if we can locate a Metro bike station that would be convenient on an ongoing basis.
Right. Thank you, Ken. Let's see, we have a question from Lyndon. What is the total cost of current red line improvement projects?
I don't have that total in front of me. We can certainly follow up and do that. So we would have to go way back to the very beginning once we started the project, but we can certainly put that information together and share that.
And then we'd be happy to send that to you. All right, from Nicholas, why isn't the Broadmoor Station actually in or on the same road as the domain? Roads in that area aren't designed for people, and I don't feel comfortable walking. This is a great question.
And I would say that obviously the station is located as close to what we think the population center will be going forward, both residential and commercial. And so something that we continuously work on is the connectivity. So, one thing that we do know is that we're going to have a large amount of bus connectivity between that station and the area neighborhoods and businesses, especially the domain. So you'll be easily catch a bus to arrive at your destination. In terms of pedestrian and bicycle passageways, we are always working with the city of Austin on that to improve area sidewalks and provide that connectivity as well. So I'm sure we'll be looking at that as the ridership grows at that station.
All right. Let's see. When the Broadmoor Station goes in, will the route of the 803 be changed to not go into the domain as it does today? Similarly, when the McCalla Station is put in, will the 803 no longer go into the Pickle Research Center?
The first question, and Sharmila, please feel free to jump in here, but we will always serve the domain with the route 803, but it will also serve the Broadmoor Station. Then for McCalla, the 803 is on Burnett Road in front of the McCalla Station. And we are contemplating the future of the route 803 as related to the J.J. Pickle campus, the research campus there, and whether or not we continue to go through the campus or stay out on Burnett Road. So those are discussions that we're having with Sharmila and the planning group right now.
All right. Here's a question from Brandon. A significant amount of double tracking was removed from Prop A around June 2020 due to COVID cuts that brought the ask down from 10 to 7 billion. Okay. Is Cap Metro planning, what is Cap Metro planning to do to help the city of Austin? Oops, I think I lost that one, sorry. In the event that federal funds exceed projections, can the double tracking between the domain and downtown be added to construction plans? I know double tracking between Howard and Leander will help the system, but there are significant impediments in the city with the limited passing. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Who wants to take that?
Well, I will start, and then I think Dave Deck is an expert in this area, but Dave Deck and Sharmila Mukherjee and I and others are working with consultants right now to evaluate our entire red line corridor to determine those locations, those strategic locations throughout the corridor where double tracking, sections of double tracking would improve our service. And so it's quite expensive, as you might imagine, to double track the entire corridor, but you get a significant amount of benefit from key locations. And we're identifying approximately about a half dozen total sections of double tracking that would significantly improve our service in terms of frequency and reliability. And so we're focusing on those areas. Funding is always a challenge, but there are many federal grant programs that we are always applying for. And so we will continue to do that to continue to add sections of double track. But Dave, if you'd like to add on to that, please do.
Yeah, if I had my way, I'd put double track everywhere. But it's, we do have constraints and budgets to work within, and we're working very closely, Sharmila's group, myself, with some industry experts. We've got a whole new set of presumptions now. When PTC went into effect, and we started running EATC, which was a federal mandate. Our train speeds changed, our meet speeds changed. So all of the previous assumptions that we relied on for years and years and years in the rail industry have been changed. And we have new rules and guidelines that we're working through. So we're working with a group of people who are very good at simulating and optimizing railroads to try to see exactly where the best places would be, because we have the red line to think about. We have, we're going to have the green line to think about. So there's a lot of need, and there's a smaller pool of money that we look where we get the biggest bang for our buck. So there's definitely a need between Broadmoor and downtown, but those specific locations are yet to be determined.
All right. We have this next question from Greg. With the strong ties between land use and transportation, what is Cap Metro planning to do to help the city of Austin legalize responsible land use at a minimum around our transit stops and stations? Today, we value height limits and parking requirements over homes, jobs, walkability near transit. Reform here seems like an easy win for ridership and affordability. This sounds like one maybe for Sharmila.
Yes, I expected as much. So thank you for the question. That's a great question. We obviously understand the very close nexus between land use and development, and specifically as it relates to transit. So we are working very closely. So I would answer your question head on. We are working very closely with City of Austin. And I've been in this position less than a year and a half. It's about 19 months. And during that time, I have seen great cooperation and a lot of focus on this. Currently, we are working on, and I would almost encourage you to think of this as a template that would then be extended potentially with other key transportation corridors, specifically our transit corridors and arterials that have higher transit ridership. And a transit-oriented development, an equitable transit-oriented development along our blue and orange line as part of the Project Connect program that specifically looks at how we could affect change, have better transit-oriented development and densities along that corridor. And City of Austin is taking a very focused look as well based on council resolution that was passed that's more focused on the policy. So as you know, Cap Metro and Austin Transit Partnership, we do not have land use authority. We, however, could create a great planning framework that's equitable and takes into account the growth that's happening in Austin and what new transit could bring to this, and then provide that framework to City of Austin and work with them on any other regulatory framework changes that would follow. So that's a great question. And I think it would be our focus moving forward as it is already.
Thanks, Sharmila. All right, we have a short question here. What is 240? And I'm not sure, Jacob, what exactly you're referring to. Does anybody know offhand? And if not, we can talk offline with Jacob and make sure we get his question answered.
I believe that refers to Route 240,
Ah.
which is one of the routes that will serve the Broadmoor Station.
Thank you, Ken. All right. Stephen asks, where can we see more detailed design of the Broadmoor Station? Ken mentioned it is already in permitting. Does that mean that there is no opportunity to adjust or alter based on community feedback? And I'm happy to jump in on part of this, and I will tell Stephen that we are always taking feedback. And if there are any specific comments or questions regarding design, we're happy to take them at feedback@capmetro.org or feedback@projectconnect.com. And Ken, I don't know if I will defer to you on asking when those designs will be visible to provide comment on.
Sure, on the Broadmoor Station. So the Broadmoor Station really has completed the design process. And I know we're lucky today to have Julie Barr, who is working with the developer there on the Broadmoor Station. So Capital Metro provided them with our standard design guidelines for rail stations and discussed the service that we would be providing to them, as well as our track and signal requirements, et cetera. So we did provide the developer there, but the developer is leading the construction of that project with Capital Metro in a consulting role. But I'll defer to Julie to see if she has anything to add to that.
We would be happy to share the drawings, their construction documents, and so there are several hundred pages, but if I'd be happy to reach out to them individually, the person that asked the question also, and then we could just share the pages that might be relevant to their questions as well. So.
Thanks, Julie. I'll connect you with Stephen after the meeting. All right. Our next question from Greg. How will you accommodate the red line trail between Breaker Lane and Q2 Stadium? And I think this is a two-part question, one from our Cap Metro side, perhaps somebody from the city, and we're lucky enough to have Katie Wittig here with us from the city of Austin, who does work on trails. So I will open it up to whoever wants to answer first.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Katie Wettick. I'm the Urban Trail Program Manager within the City of Austin Public Works Department. So just so everyone knows, the Red Line Trail is identified in the 2014 Urban Trails Plan as a high priority trail that follows the Red Line rail all the way from downtown Austin to Leander. So we've been working to build portions of it out, and we're currently working really closely with Cap Metro at the Broadmoor Station. Our current project ends just north of Breaker. So I think this question is best to be posed to Cap Metro with how we can tie in their station.
I think, Sharmila, from Capital Metro's perspective, I know you've been working with the city on that. I don't know if you want to provide a few comments regarding that.
Yes, absolutely. Again, I just wanted to thank Katie and Katie's team that have been very great partners, very responsive. We are working on this together. And to say that this was a simple process would be an incredible understatement. We and Julie Barr, I will actually defer to Julie Barr too to kind of talk about this, because she's been coordinating this with City Urban Trail for, I would say, the entire duration of the design process. There are a couple alignments that are currently under works, and I feel that we can definitely reach out to whoever asked the question with as we are very much in the process of narrowing down the two urban trail alignments and how that get accommodated within the development and next to the station. So definitely there's a follow-up needed here, and we'll be happy to give you more information.
Thanks, Sharmila. We have a question from Nancy regarding wheelchair access at, I believe, the stations. I don't know if it was Broadmoor or McCalla, but perhaps both. Can somebody speak to what we're doing to ensure access to those stations.
Like I can jump in here, we make sure that all of our Capital Metro facilities are completely accessible. So, we are required to follow the Texas accessibility standards on all of our projects, but we like to go even above and beyond that to ensure that we've extended sidewalks to, other pedestrian connectivity in the area and everything, but all of our station facilities will be completely accessible. And you saw some ramps and things and some of the renderings that we shared earlier. So we always want to make sure we have sufficient and easy accessibility throughout our sites.
Thank you, Ken. We have a question from Eric wondering, when will Kramer Station close?
I think the current plan for the Kramer Station would be that once both the Broadmoor Station and the McCalla Station are in service, we would look at then phasing out the Kramer Station because these two stations will then serve the population that currently utilizes that Kramer Station.
Great. Will there be a charge for parking at the Broadmoor Station? Plans for electric car charging? And what about secure bike parking?
And I'm sorry, Jackie, that was the Broadmoor Station?
Yes, at Broadmoor.
Okay, and maybe defer to Julie on that one again.
Yes, so there, at this time, there will not be a charge for parking. There's 400 shared parking spaces, and they are adjacent to the planned rail. So that'll be nice and convenient. Bike parking is available. An electric vehicle, there will be some. So with the built out development, it'll be 6 million square feet. And in each of those parking garage, there will be electric vehicle charging stations.
All right, and we have a related question from Marcel, but I think we've answered it regarding, will there be a parking structure for the 400 parking spaces at Broadmoor, and will they be free to the public? So it sounds like there will be a parking structure. Is that correct, Julie?
At the beginning, until Block L of the development is constructed, it will be surface parking.
Okay.
And then eventually, when they start to build Block L, then that surface parking will go to an existing parking structure that's built on what was originally the IBM campus.
Thank you. Let's see, from Lyndon, besides Q2 Stadium, what other residential commercial sites does McCalla Station serve?
And I might defer to Sharmila on that because I know the planning department has done extensive analysis on the current and future neighborhoods that are developing in that area.
Yes, and I would actually, Marcus I'm not sure if Marcus Guerrero, the project manager, is online. He would be able to even point out specific neighborhoods, but when we looked at putting in McCalla Station, our primary assumption was that it's connecting to the biggest destination, that is Q2 Stadium. But since that assumption's been made, the neighborhoods around that and the retail breweries and supportive retail for both stadium and neighborhoods have been also added. So I would, if Mark is on the line, this is definitely a question for him so he can actually point out the specific areas.
I don't believe he's with us, but I do know that our real estate group has done quite a bit of, had quite a few discussions with the city and other adjacent developers. And nearly all of the east side of the track there is in some stage of planning for redevelopment. So there's going to be a lot of multi-use development there on the east side of the station, which is now mostly industrial. So there are quite a number of apartment complexes that are planned in that immediate vicinity.
That is correct. I mean, I personally am aware of the two planned unit development, the really large PUDs that are planned around there, but the exact phasing and when they would be inhabited, so to speak, or available in the market, that Marcus even has that information. So we can definitely share that information if there's additional interest on that.
I will say as an aside, because of the community engagement effort with Marcus, that we wound up doing outreach on ridership for as far north as Palmer and as far east as Parkfield, throughout the North Austin Civic Association, Gracie Woods, North Burnett, North Austin, and those things are in addition to some of the obvious ones, like some of the housing development directly near the station, the major breweries in the area, as well as the Domain and UT Pickle, and what you may not consider, but is a rather large employment area in the warehouse district just south of that stadium. Let's see, I'm kind of pinch hitting here for Jackie so that she can be off screen for a sec. So let's see, the next question we have is where can we see detailed designs of the McCalla station, specifically how the multimodal parts or the bikeway or pedestrian access are going to be connected?
And I know King was on earlier. King Call, the director of capital projects, was on earlier. I know he and Marcus Guerrero, the project manager, are working with our consultants on that right now. They are developing some renderings and layouts that we'll be able to share very shortly with the public. And so all of that information will be posted to the website as soon as it's available, but that should be in the very near future.
Ken, I'm online. My name is King Cole. I'm Director for Capital Projects. Yes, we have recently completed 30% design on McCalla Station and double tracking, and we will be soon posting that design information on the website.
Thanks. Let's see, does anybody know how many trains there will be room to stage for Q2 stadium events when extra capacity is needed?
And Dave Deck can join in here, but it's designed to house 4 trains, stage 4 trains. If we get to a point where the demand is even increased beyond that, he believes he might be able to store as many as 6 trains there for post game. And as you know, going to various special events, the crowd kind of trickles in a little at a time, but after the game, everybody wants to leave at once. So it's really that crush capacity at the end of the match that we're looking to serve by staging several trains. So I'll defer to Dave though, if he has more to add to that.
You were exactly right on that, Ken. We've got the stations designed to give us the maximum amount of flexibility for post-event, as well as be able to maintain end-to-end operations pre-event. So right now, we can either do one or the other. We can, set up for the event on both tracks, or we can run operations from end to end. With the new design, the way we have it to lap over there at North Ops, we'll be able to stage 4 trains, as well as continue end-to-end operations. Or if the demand is there, we can stage 6 trains to empty the stadium out afterwards.
Let's see. Thanks, fellas. There's a ton of questions still open, so I wanted to try to get as much as I can in. I'm going to try to summate a few of these. People are just wanting to know, what is the schedule? When will McCalla be delivered? When will Broadmoor be delivered? When will Kramer be closed? Does anybody have an idea of what that time frame looks like?
So we can respond on McCalla. So McCalla, we are trying to get under construction in early 2022 and completed in summer to fall of 23 is our goal right now. So that one's progressing along on that schedule. I know Julie can respond on Broadmoor. They are in permitting, but I don't believe they have a target start date yet, but I'll let Julie answer that.
Hi, Ken. Yes, we are into permitting, and we are working with the city on the type of permit that we will need. And so when we have resolution with the city on the actual type of permit they would like us to follow in their systems, then we'll have more information on how long the permit will actually take. So,
okay, so still unknown there. But then, as a result, just to be clear, Kramer Station will remain open until both of those stations are completed?
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're looking at well after 2023 at this point, since Broadmoor still doesn't have a construction timeline. That's
yes.
What we're getting at. Great. Let's see. Here's a question. If Leander votes to leave Cap Metro, It feels like Eric might want to, Stratton might want to speak to this, maybe Sharmila as well. If Leander votes to leave Cap Metro this fall, will that affect the double track?
Do you want me to take this?
Yeah,
Go for
I'll
it,
defer
Sharmila.
that. I'll defer that to the staff.
Please. So the answer to that is, at this point, we are assuming that we are truly focused on the operational needs for Red Line as a corridor. And as Ken mentioned earlier and Dave chimed in, we are relying on the results of our Red Line optimization, how to improve the overall operations on Red Line and where it would be, double tracking would be needed to support that. We are very aware of Leander's the discussions that are happening around that, but at the moment we are moving forward, assuming that things are going to be in place as they are now. We are committed to serving the communities that the Red Line serves right now, and happy to extend to other communities that are not opted out. So I think that would tie into another question that would that's in the chat as well that I noticed. So we are committed to the operations and we are proceeding as if that would continue.
And,
All right.
and if I may just dovetail onto that, I'll say that with that in mind, Cap Metro has been committed as a partner to the city of Leander, and is not just providing and expanding Red Line service at this time with this project to initiate the double tracking to improve the reliability and the efficiency of the service, but also has instituted the Leander pickup zones for the service that allows for, basically it's like pretty much like it's a on-demand pickup service for the same price as a bus ride. For $1.25, you go on an app, you dial it up, the bus comes to you within a defined zone and defined hours. And that recently was expanded, the geographic footprint within the city, and the hours were expanded as well. COVID kind of, I think is kind of what we're seeing is that COVID put a little bit of a hitch in the giddy up for everything and everyone in transit across the country, as it did with so many other things in parts of the economy. But with that in particular, that's expanding and getting up and running as well. And also, for that matter, we still have express bus service that will also be coming back online and expanding. In addition to that, again, as we're watching the numbers and the use and the demand coming back online as COVID numbers, as we come out of the COVID pandemic as well. So Cap Metro at this time is committed to the citizens of Leander and providing them the services that they need. And as Sharmila said, any other community that seeks to come on board and be part of a committed partnership within the Cap Metro family within the service territory as well.
And actually, that is a great point that Board Member Stratton brought up. We understand that across the country as well as in the region, our purse strings are very strained at the moment, and then COVID had ridership impacts. So we believe that has temporary impacts also in communities' minds. But again, we believe those are temporary impacts. And we all are also aware that there are many there's recent boom in Leander housing market, and that is also tied to the rail service. Many folks they moved there because there's Red Line operating, and they see that as a way to connect to downtown. So we understand that all of those would be different variables that would play into the equation, and we're hopeful that we'll continue to serve the community.
Thank you. Let's see, I've got a question from Nathan Bernier, really a two-part. It looks like he's interested in, can you explain the quiet zones and why they're so desired by nearby residents? And then also let us know about when they'll be completed.
I think Dave Deck might be able to answer that question.
Sure. So a quiet zone is basically an exception to the law. So the federal law actually dictates that trains will sound a horn at the crossing for no less than 20 seconds, no more than 35. The quiet zone allows for communities to put in sufficient safety devices that allow for the train not to blow the horn as long as things are working properly. So those can be a number of different things depending on each crossing, depending on where the adjacent driveways are, things like that. But a lot of times what we see is, the full quad gate setting, and then we have to upgrade the crossing the warning system to a continuous flow or what actually predicts the train speed instead of the old island circuits. So there's a lot to it, but basically what you want to be able to do is make sure that no one can get around the gate arms. So you have to have a positive protection there, and that allows the train engineers to not blow the horn. Now, if there are still, construction zones, if there's people near the tracks, any things like that, the engineers are always required to blow the horn there. But these are obviously they're designed for people in residential and business areas. They a lot of us, I get used to hearing the train horn, but some people, they don't want to hear it. I get that, and that's so they move into these areas, and we can do certain things to make the crossing safe enough so that the federal government will allow us an exception to the law, which would be a quiet zone. I hope that answered the question.
See, we've got several questions about double tracking still. Some folks are asking if that will constrain pedestrian and bike paths along the trail. And then other folks are asking if, because we're not double tracking, if there are unexpected bottlenecks in the system. Any thoughts about that?
Dave, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to, obviously we work within our constraints. We have, we want to try to do everything we can to increase our flexibility as well as decrease our headways and increase our frequency. And a lot of that includes double tracking. Now there are areas where our right of way, the amount of property that we own, is very constrained. So it makes it, there's a lot of work that goes into trying to decide if you can fit a bike trail in a certain location. Where can you fit it in? Can you help with a neighboring property? Is there room for fencing? Things like that. Can it be done safely? There's guidelines within the FRA to use. There's no hard and fast rules. We try to have a certain amount of distance between, but when you have a very constrained right of way, that makes it difficult. And we want to remember that, it's not just the trains, the DMUs that use these things. We have freight trains that we have a legal obligation, a common carrier obligation to run freight trains, and that runs on these corridors as well. And our maintenance. So we have maintenance equipment that, throws rocks and, they're doing ballast shoulder cleaners. So all those things have to be taken into account when we figure out where we can fit those bikeways and pathways. And we are committed to any place that we can fit them safely. We will absolutely do that.
Thank you, Dave. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we'll only be able to get to a couple more of these questions, and we appreciate all of these questions being sent in. And feel free to reach out to us via feedback at projectconnect.com, feedback at capmetro.org with your questions. We can answer them via email for you if we don't get to them today. We do have a question about a maintenance facility in Leander. It says Leander is designed to have a maintenance facility of 30 acres. Is it being planned, or are plans abandoned?
And I can respond to that. We did acquire property at just past the Leander station in Leander for a potential future maintenance facility. And so as we evaluate all of these red line improvements, one of the things that we're evaluating is, will it make sense operationally and financially to have a maintenance facility at that location? So it could be potentially a maintenance facility, it could be a car storage area, train storage area. Apart from Project Connect, Capital Metro has initiated a facility master plan for all of our operating facilities. And so we are evaluating that property as part of that to see operationally and financially, to be financially responsible, does it make sense to locate either a maintenance facility at that location or a car storage area? So that master plan is ongoing. It should be complete in the early part of 22, and then we should be able to move forward and determine the future utilization of that site.
Here's one about infill stations. Are there plans for infill stations on Airport Boulevard or other areas?
And I might defer to Sharmila on that. The stations that we've discussed today are the ones that are in the active pipeline. But Sharmila could talk about any future stations.
So every station we add also adds to our travel time and so it's a balancing act between connectivity and travel time and providing the most reliable service. So with that, I would say that we don't have any immediate plans to provide another station. And we just discussed today the ones that are in the works and in active planning, design, or in impending construction. But looking ahead, as Project Connect, Blue Line and Orange Line, they come alive. Let's kind of take ourselves to say 2030. And would there be a station down the road? That's going to be evaluated down the road as we kind of think about more system-wide connectivity. So that's a good question. Thanks for reminding us about other stations that could be on the line.
All right. We did get a couple of questions that were referring to our Project Connect light rail lines, one about the subway and one about the route to the airport. I encourage you all to reach out to us at feedback@projectconnect.com for questions regarding the light rail. So I think we are out of time, unfortunately, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today on this update, and thank the team, Katie from the city, Council Member Poole, Board Member Stratton. Thank you all today for being with us today. And if you have further questions, please reach out. We're always open to your feedback and questions and happy to answer them. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you so much for your participation today.